Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your guest of the Empowerography Podcast. Today my guest is Carly Ashdown. She is a professional artist painter based in London, England. How are you doing today, Carly?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Brad. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's great to have you here today. I thank you and appreciate you agreeing to be a guest and share a bit about your story and your journey.
I'll do my best to answer your question.
How's your day going? How's your day going so far?
Yeah, it's going well. I've literally just put down the paintbrush like 5 minutes ago, and it's nice and quiet here, so I've been very focused. I've had a nice morning with my son and my partner. So far so good, Brad. So far,
Excellent. So let's jump right in here. So you worked in the television world. You worked at the BBC. You worked at Channel 4. You weren't too happy in that whole world, and you took a course exploring the conscious and reality of the mind and ended up volunteering at that same place, that same organization where you took the course. And I read that there you had like a light bulb moment or an awakening experience which spoke to you and told you that you needed to paint. Is that correct? And can you explain what it was like and what happened?
I'll try my best, but it was a very unusual experience.
Okay.
So yeah, I worked in TV. I'd managed to work my way up an industry that's very competitive. So I was just reaching that level where I was achieving those tick goals. You know, I was the picture view I had of how my life should look, and yet I wasn't happy, and I couldn't put my finger on why I wasn't happy. But there was like a sadness in me that I couldn't quite, one, make space for, but two, comprehend or understand, seeing as I was meeting my expectations finally after working so hard. And I was volunteering with this organisation whose main body of work is to explore human consciousness, the nature of reality, and why are we here, which had been a lifelong longing to understand for me. Why am I on the planet? Is this all there is? You know, I look out through the world through these eyes, and could there be more to life? So I was in that question, and I trained in psychotherapy at the Tavistock, not to become fully qualified, but just to understand the mind. So I was that way inclined. And we were planning the year ahead. We had a weekend event where we were, how do we grow this charity and this organisation? How do we serve the community? And we were just all sitting there having this conversation in a massive circle, about 30 people. And it's so hard to explain, but it was like something shot out of the sky to my right and hit me, and I almost fell off my chair. It was not really visual. It was like an energy hit me. It sounds bizarre, I get it. And it told me that I must paint. And I almost fell off my chair. It's such a vivid memory. And what happened after that is I was like, F that. I don't even like painting.
You can swear on here, Carly. It's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, fuck that. You know, I don't know who's listening, man. But I didn't like painting. I didn't enjoy it. I'd done an arts degree, but I'd done film and photography, and I wasn't particularly skilled. I could always been able to draw and find it very therapeutic, but I was awful at painting and had no painting skills. So my internal dialogue kicked in and was like, that's not happening. Like, you are not doing that. Just absolutely not. You're finally getting somewhere. People think you're crazy enough with, and so I ignored it. And I got severely depressed over a period of about 3 months, because I think when you get a call like that, I don't know where it came from. I'm not going to try and pretend I know what it was or make suggestions, because we can only guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But when you ignore something like that, you're going to pay the price for it. Not many people get given such a clear communication from God, the universe, cosmic energy, whatever you want to call it, or just your own. It could be your own unconscious trying to communicate with you. Who knows?
Yeah.
When you get such a, who knows? The point is I ignored it and got very depressed. And so I tell you what happened was the pain of not doing it started to overwhelm the fear of it going wrong. And so I took a risk and I started painting, and basically I gave myself 6 months to achieve, and basically I said to myself, if you don't get anywhere within this 6-month period, then you've had a moment of madness. Go back into TV. You can say you've taken a sabbatical. So that's basically what I did, and within 6 months I had a gallery and a website. And bearing in mind, when I started painting, I didn't know what primary colours were. My brother my brother had to point out, do you realise what primary colours are? Do you think you might want to mix a bit of green into that dark bit, seeing as you've got red going on? Do you know, I did, or like complementary colours, you know, I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that stuff. I hadn't really studied it. Not a clue. So
wow. You actually had
where I was.
no painting experience whatsoever, really.
Well, I mean, I'd painted, but I hadn't really learned how to paint. I painted in college. It was, you know, what we do in the UK is GCSEs. I'm not, you know, sure in Canada what the equivalent is, but, you know, when you're 15, 16 and you paint. I did an art foundation, and the teacher privately told my parents, please don't, before the art foundation I did a GMVQ, and the teacher said to my parents privately, don't bother having your daughter apply for the art foundation.
Really?
Yeah. And so my dad rang the guy. He's called Barry, and he rang the guy at the art foundation college and said, look, this is what they've said. And Barry just said, bring her along anyway and let her come and do the interview. And I went there. It was a fantastic year full of people from all over the world, and it was great. And I was still a shit painter, but it was a great year.
Unbelievable. That's crazy. You have this awakening and something telling you to paint, even though you really had no real experience painting, and you were told by someone you were shit not to bother getting into the arts.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Can you imagine for yourself, Brad? I'm trying to imagine the opposite of what you do. Can you imagine a calling suddenly telling you that you've got to do IT? I'm nothing wrong with IT, but I just can't imagine you necessarily wanting to do that when your thing is you know, your photography. You'd be annoyed. You'd be frustrated. You'd be like, what?
That'd be one hell of an internal struggle to deal with. I'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it was. That's what I dealt with for like 3 months, was this kind of thing of the logical mind telling me this is crazy, and also you don't enjoy it, juxtaposed to the calling, whatever that was. So it was a process for sure, and I'm praying from trying different things and stuff like that. Anyway, although my career was quite solid in TV, I'm always up for exploring. So people just thought I'd done a bit of a Carly and gone a bit nuts, you know, and gone on to another, you know, because I was training at the Tavistock in psychotherapy. I was also working in TV. You know, I'd gone to 3 different universities before I settled, because this isn't the right university for me. I need a new university. So people knew me for making these different choices. But I think even for the best of people around me, this was a shock, really.
What did your parents, like, how did your parents react, and how did your friends react?
Well, I think they knew me well enough to know that that it was worth a try, but I tell you what, the thing is, when you have a calling like this, I'm going to call it a calling because it's the best word to describe it.
That works.
We all have a vision, a deep innate something in us all that is the essence of who we are, that wants to come out to the world, and we just have to discover that whatever way. The thing is, it's very delicate. So what I say is, when it's in that early stages, especially when you don't have the positive feedback loop of being able to do it, is be careful who you tell, because you're going to come up against other people's opinions and perceptions and all of that stuff, and it's very difficult for people to understand what you're doing when you can't present the evidence that what you're doing is actually viable, you know. So I was looking back so long ago, I think I was careful about who I spoke to about
because I think that if you're not careful who you tell, everybody has an opinion on what you should do. Everybody knows what's best for you, right?
Right. And that's going to affect you. That's going to affect how you feel about it. It's going to muddy the waters of what's possible for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you find the transition then, going from working in the television world into now becoming an artist?
Well, weirdly, quite easy. I had some savings. I'd amassed a reasonable amount of savings. Wasn't going to last a lifetime, but was going to be enough to carry me through this period of potential craziness. And I just suddenly, it was the minute I started, it just flowed, and it just felt right. And it was bizarre because this wasn't the relationship I'd had to it when I tried it before.
Right.
And it just, my work was still rubbish back then. I look back and there was just a naive confidence that it was fantastic, but it really, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a feeling of what I wanted to create, but no skills.
Yeah.
So I just painted and I kept going, and it got good enough that some galleries would take it. But even now I look back at that and go, blimey, people brought that stuff. Jesus.
Right.
But there was a note. I'd always been fighting the tide. I'd always been trying to live out a picture of what I thought success was.
Yeah.
And now I was doing something that was of vision. It was outside of creating pictures, and it was about, I don't know, like creating something out of the impossible. It's like declaring that the first time, going to fly to the moon. They didn't have the technologies to do that, but it was declared.
Yeah.
Because there was a visionary approach to this shall be. So there was that kind of flow state going on with it, and then things just conspired to work. Opportunities came along to develop my style, and then eventually, after working with several guys, I still went back into TV on and off for several years, because working with the odd gallery and making the odd bit of money is not going to sustain you. And so I would do the odd little bit of work in TV for a while, and then I got signed to a major publishing house. But before I got signed to them, I'd taken my work along to them, and I love the guy that ran the place, still does, and he looked at my work and he tore it to shreds.
Wow.
And he said, "This is ugly, the legs are too long. If you're going to break a body down, you need to really know how to put it together." And to be honest, it was a breath of fresh air for me. I'd not been critiqued. And the minute he pointed out the issues, I could see it. So I did. I went back to life drawing classes. The Princess Drawing School in London. It was a public teaching system with people actually doing degrees within it, and you could come and go. And I did that with some amazing teachers, and I carried on working with galleries. And then I went back to the publishers, and they signed me pretty much straight away.
Wow.
And it just kind of grew from there. Even like by then, I didn't need to work in
Right.
TV
But
anymore.
you had mentioned that when you first started painting, you look back now on your work, and you just, I think that type of thing serves as a great reminder, and it keeps you grounded to remember where you started and where you came from.
Right.
I find I do that with my work as well. Every so often, I purposely go back and look at it just to say, you know what? Look at how far I've come from when I first started. And it keeps you grounded. It keeps you on the level to say, hey, everybody starts somewhere, and my work was shit. I thought it was great at the time, but it was shit.
It's like this naive kind of innocent, sense of, and I was just enjoying it. And I knew, there was days when it would be awful in front of the canvas. I was not in I know how to, even if a piece goes wrong, I know how to sort it out. I know I always make a certain level of quality of painting. It's never going to go below a certain par.
Right.
Now. But back then that wasn't the case. And some days I go home after having like the most awful day in the studio, but I felt zen. I felt good. I felt like I was in charge. I was, I had my hands on the wheel of the ship, regardless of, life can feel so chaotic that it's nice to have something that you feel so in charge of, like this, and you are there. It wasn't even like I had my hands on the wheels. I am the ship. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to my art.
That's right.
Yeah.
So a good portion of your work, I've noticed the subject matter seems to be women. Why do you tend to focus so much of your work on painting women?
Because they're more interesting to paint than men for me. They're as straight as they get. They just are. I mean, I think there's curve. there's hair movement. Not that men can't have long hair, but there's more options. See, all my work explores like the nature of human experience. Well, you know, there's mirror, there's glass in my work. There's changing color elements, and no two people see the same thing when they look at my work. But you know, with that, you know, I want to, you know, I'm a woman, and that's what I relate to, I guess, most of all. So there must be part of my story and myself coming through my film. You know, the point of the artist is to reach into the abyss and bring something back for everyone else, but it's still got to go through your filter system of you.
Yes.
So it's still got to meet your, you know, and so I can relate more personally to women being female, and so and the delicateness of the female form, that, you know, the fingers aren't so chunky. It's just, you know, it's more, for me, it's more joyous to paint, I suppose. So that's why. All
right. Now, I've also noticed that the women depicted in your paintings, there's never, or not very often, eye contact with the subject of the painting and the viewer.
Right.
Why is that? Like, do you do that specifically on purpose, or is there a reason behind it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few reasons. One, it allows the viewer to mark the image with their own impression. The minute you stick eyes on there, you're telling the viewer who this is a bit more. And I think that takes something away from the person looking. It enforces something upon them, you know, because you get the windows of the soul somewhat through the eyes. And I think it's really nice for a viewer to be able to make the decision around who that is, really.
Right.
So there's creating ambiguity there, which I think is helpful. But then also there is that, like I said, you get a lot of mirror on the eyes, and so you get yourself reflecting back at you, which is kind of very black and white explanation of you know, the whole, you are going to see yourself reflected back in the universe around you. It's a very you know, tangible way to understand what I'm trying to communicate. The same with these little color changing elements. You know, if two people are standing in front of the painting, you don't get it with the prints, but with the originals, you're going to see different colors because it changes as you move around the painting, and therefore it reminds you that you're looking through a very personal filter system of your, which is basically based on your life experience, and that creates the filter through which you view the world. And it's just a very tangible example of that in your face in that moment. So yeah.
Okay. Where do you pull your inspiration from when you're creating a new work of art?
Some of it comes from sketches that I do myself, and some of it comes from working with a body of photographers. I contact them and I work with, you know, I get their permission and I show them my work. I let them know what I do. I explain why I'm doing what I do, and it's hard to kind of explain why the image that I pick, but there's something in the pose, there's something in the feel of it that for me says something about what it is to be alive on planet Earth. And it could be just the way that a little finger is turning, or the way the head is tilted, or the way the hair is moving across the face.
Right.
Something about it just calls to me, and I think that I can do something with that, and I can express, you know. So in a way, my work has other people's inspiration in it, you know, as well, which is lovely, because ultimately, from my perspective, we're all kind of one consciousness. So it's like we're all working together to create the work.
Very cool. On average, how long does a piece take for you to create? I mean, I know obviously there are different factors that weigh in there in terms of the size of the canvas you're using and so on, but on average, let's just say, how long roughly would a piece take you to create?
I mean, I go away from paintings and go back to them, and I might paint something for over a day and go back a week later, or I might paint solid for a week. So if you add up all the time all together, bearing in mind I might work on a painting between 3 to 5 hours a day, I guess between a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks per painting. Okay. But that's not necessarily a solid 9 to 5.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I guess it's just part of it's a matter of when you're feeling it, when you're feeling creative, of course, and because there are going to be times where you don't feel creative, and it's best not to try and create work when you're not feeling it, right?
Yeah, it's like a doorway that opens.
Right.
I think you're, you know, with the photography as well, you're in a conversation, aren't you, with the process, and it's like finding that moment of inspiration. And when you're doing your photography, it will be through, you know, no one else can take the photo you're taking. It's for your lens, and it has to work at that time, right? At that time for you. So it's like this doorway that opens up, and suddenly it presents your.
That's a good way of looking at it. I've never heard that analogy, a doorway opening up, and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. And some days the door's slightly open, and I can, I can push it open a bit more. And other days I'm just like, oh man, it's a Netflix day.
Door's shut.
You know what? I'm my own boss here. Today is definitely a Netflix day.
Yeah. So, how long now have you been painting full time as a professional?
Oh, let me think about this. Maybe about, how old am I? God, I'm getting on. Well, I've been painting for 10 years, but I've probably been doing it professionally now for about, full time. I mean, probably for about 6 years.
Wow. Very cool. Now, I also read that you include text on or in some of your paintings, but make it illegible. Right. What's the reasoning behind that? Why do you do that?
Well, I kind of changed it up. So originally I was just making it completely illegible because, again, I want the viewer to get the feeling of it rather than being told what it says.
Right.
And I just don't want to imprint something. But the other thing I also do is to sometimes write text backwards so that you're just, it looks illegible, but then you put a mirror against it and you can read it. And that's really just another kind of edging towards, look a little deeper at your environment, look a little deeper at the world around you. Maybe things aren't quite as they seem. If you were to look a little deeper, you might discover something that was otherwise invisible to you.
I love it.
That's the reasoning for it.
That's very cool.
Thanks.
Can you explain a bit about your process when you sit down and start to create a new piece of work?
Yeah, so I will, either take, like I said, some sketches, or I will work some photography, or I'll mix it up. And then I will sketch out the image onto paper, and then I sometimes project the sketch onto the canvas or go straight onto the canvas. And then I just set to work. I'm like, whilst I went to life drawing, I'm still a self-taught artist. So it's just a very organic process for me of just, I don't pick my colours until I get in front of the canvas. Often my images are, like I said, either sketches or they're black and white images. So they're not colour images mainly. So I don't have a colour reference to go off. I just have shading. Right. And so I just in that moment, right, what colour shall we make this jumper? Do you know what I mean? And that's what I do. And I just start painting, and I just
go to it.
Just go to it and see what happens.
I love it. Very, very. That's very organic. Just do it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm constantly surprised that they work. I'm constantly like, oh wow, that not only that, but they're getting better, and people want them, and
I have to say, I think your work is absolutely stunning. The paintings I've seen are, and again, I'm only seeing a digital representation of them. I'm sure it's completely different to see them live and up close and in person, but they're fucking stunning. Your work is amazing. You're a very, very talented artist.
I mean, it's hard for me to take that in because I feel like I do so little because I'm so organic with the process.
Right.
That compliments are hard to take in for anyone anyway. But so there's just like bouncing off of that. But I'll try and take it in because it's a very beautiful thing.
Take it in because you're very talented for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. So your paintings, I've noticed they have a very gritty, funky, and kind of very grungy look and feel to them. Like I feel like it's got this grunge element to it. And I absolutely love that about your paintings. Is this look and feel intentional on your part? And would you say that if it is that your signature, your stamp as an artist?
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard the word grungy before to describe the work, but I'll take it because it's your experience of it. I guess depends on what era you find my work in. There was a time when my work was just full of ballerinas and it was very kind of soft and elegant and this and that, and now there's more of this edginess to it. I think you're constantly evolving as an artist and trying new things, and I'm quite keen to break the image up. And so there's a lot of kind of scratching up of the surface and breaking up of the skin and, you know, and pulling it and creating a sense of, you know, strength and power. And it's like, you know, paint it creates the illusion of something. And I'm constantly trying to just, I guess, I mean, it's hard to analyze because it's so organic, but I'm trying to, I don't know. I just do what I'm called to do. And if it looks grumpy,
That's it.
you know, I guess in my work, what you get is a little bit of the dark and a bit of the light, because you know, you kind of need some darkness in you to be able to create joy and love. And, you know, you need a reason to have joy and love in your life. And I think sometimes being present to the darkness, as human beings, we have a myriad of experiences in us. And I think I try to bring all of that to the table.
Well, I mean, in life, we need the darkness to appreciate the light. So I get exactly what you're saying, but I get this really gritty, really gritty, grungy feel, and I love it. I think.
Thank you.
It's amazing. It truly is. So how often are you painting and creating new work, would you say?
I mean, it's getting better. So with the lockdown that we had, I was only coming in a couple of days a week because my partner works full time, so he'd take a couple of days off a week and I could come in, and we have a son. So I was just doing 2 days a week, which was driving me nuts. Because, you know, part of it is, I think, for my mental health that I paint, really. You know, it's like a meditation, and so I suddenly wasn't meditating in the way that I was used to every day. But now I'm back to doing 5 days a week. Well, I usually take a Wednesday off to just chill, but mainly I'm in 5 days a week. But it's still a bit tight because my son finishes school early at the minute, so it's like I do half days. But, you know, I'm in on the weekend today. You know, my partner's lovely and flexible about it all. Maybe he's glad to see the back of me for the Saturday. I don't know. But, you know, I paint when I can, and it's pretty consistent. You know, it's my full-time job, so I've got to be in as much as I can.
Isn't that tough, though? I mean, you say you do half days right now, or at times because your son's at school, but isn't that hard to kind of, when you're in that zone and you're creating, to, let's say you're really into it and you've got to leave in half an hour. Isn't that tough to pull yourself away? And when it's
horrible. Yeah, I hate it. I dislike it immensely. I mean, but I'm lucky to be in a job where I'm like, oh my God, I've got to pack up in half an hour. Crap. A lot of people are indoors where they're going, right, okay, we've 6 o'clock, it's almost 5:45. You know, I can go home soon. You know, like it's a privilege to be in a position where I can be annoyed that I've got to leave.
What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that has helped you become successful as an artist?
I remember not knowing the answer to this question when I looked at it originally.
Your unique skill set or superpower that helped you?
I guess it's been the ability to trust. Well, it's a strange one because I have a weird natural lack of trust in life, which is like a conditioning. But then there's an ability to listen to my environment and trust. When I really have to make, when the shit hits the fan, I will jump off the cliff. Do you know what I mean? I will make I will make the leap, and I think that's my superpower, is to go, what have we got to lose? I think this was a big lesson for me when I didn't initially take on the call to paint. Is that, you know, I was becoming anesthetized, can't say the word, to my world, because I was so depressed from not taking action. And in the end, it's not worth it. And what was stopping me from doing it was that monologue in my head of saying, look, you know, it's impractical, you can't do this, and this is all the reasons why. And does one want to get to the end of their life, you know, because that voice in your head is just, you know, it's not aware of itself. It thinks it's giving you factual information. And so it's not really who we are. And so do I want to get to the end of my life and go, oh my God, something else led my life. And there's all these things I could have been or could have done. And it isn't about necessarily living a big life. It isn't necessarily about becoming the next president of this or that or saving the world. It could be that you're someone who just wants to have, you know, look after a garden and really nourish it, and that's your life goal. You just want to be a really fantastic parent. You know,
Yeah.
it's whatever calls you, you know, whatever speaks to you. Like, why are you on the planet? Like, if you can even start to get a sense of that, you're getting somewhere, because we're all going to die. So, you know, like, why, we're lucky to be here, quite frankly. You know, like, why not make the most of it? So that's that's the approach I take. And I still get afraid, and I still get worried, and I still hesitate, and I still have massive question marks over decisions. But then what I do is I bring in that perspective, and I go, despite all of that entanglement of concern, I'm going to do it anyway. So it's not about getting rid of fear. It's about realizing there's a bigger context and trusting in that. That's my superpower.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that because there are so many people in the world that are miserable doing what they're doing, going to their 9-to-5 job, you have to be happy. We're here for a short time. You have to be happy in what you're doing, I think. Otherwise, what's the point of living? If you're going to work, you wake up miserable every day because you're going to a job you fucking hate, and coming home and you're miserable because you had a shit day at work because you're at a job you fucking hate. What's the point? You got to be happy doing what you're doing.
You got to be happy doing what you're doing. But the thing is that, you know, our internal dialogue, that voice that's constantly explaining our environment to us, is very, very convincing.
Yeah.
And it will give us many reasons why we can't.
Yes.
And what it doesn't allow for is serendipity. It doesn't allow for the engagement of your environment to support you if you just open yourself up. That's a very scary thing to do, and a lot of people are very limited by the situation. But, you know, the truth is, when you get to your deathbed, I know none of that will matter. Yeah. I just know that you'll get there and go, oh, shit, no, I could have, would have.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's just, I don't know. That's always boggled me. And I think we as humans, we have to learn to get the fuck out of our own way, because that's a big part of the problem, is we get in our own way. As you said, you get those voices in your head saying, this is not practical, you can't do this. And you got to learn to quiet those voices and get the fuck out of your own way sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's real. And there's loads of tools out there to do that. Like, one thing I would highly recommend, if I may, to your listeners is, if they don't know it already, because I've never come across something so instantaneous, although I recommend doing it in a safe environment, because it can make you pass out, is the Wim Hof breathing method.
Is which? Sorry?
Wim Hof, W-I-M, Wim Hof, H-O-F-F, I think. Yeah. He's quite something, and what he's becoming super famous. But what I love about him is he's so utterly unpolished. He's just himself, and it's a 5-minute breathing technique that, in the end, you would do about 4 rounds of, and you'll find an instantaneous response to that. So, you know, for example, somebody I know, I got them to do it. They've done no other work, no other yoga or meditation or anything like that ever, and they have OCD and they're extremely anxious. And I sat them down on Zoom and I said, look, you know, let me run you through this breathing technique, and they were shocked. So you don't have to have any experience, but what you do need to do is be in an environment where if you fall on the floor, you're not going to hit your head. You're on a comfy sofa. You're lying on your bed. You should be fine, and you do need to be responsible for your own body in a situation. But it's a breathing technique, which is 5 minutes long, and it's really powerful, and it will quiet your mind, and it will expand your consciousness pretty quickly.
I'll have to try that. The Wim Hof method.
Wim Hof. He also does there's a lot of science around his work. So he was injected with E. coli, and through his breathing, he didn't get any issues. He didn't get inflammatory issues. He didn't get ill. Didn't get sick. So they said, okay, well, you're a one-off. And then he said, okay, let me bring in the 30 people that I've trained in this technique, inject them all with E. coli. None of them got ill.
Wow.
Because of this brew.
Well, I'll have to look into that.
It has an effect. Yeah, it has an effect on the whole body because it affects the inflammatory system, and it stops the fight or flight thing. And also, he does extreme cold, where, you know, which is not for everyone, but he's like gone through the Antarctic and stuff in his shorts and flip flops. You know, he's quite, you know, he's done it all basically, and he does. I've not done them, but he's done courses where he takes people on these expeditions. But I mean, there's loads of tools out there. if you are feeling stuck, and that's just one of them. But I'm mentioning that one because a lot of these tools out there, you have to work on for a while.
Right.
Whereas with the Wim Hof process, it's pretty instantaneous. So you get a sense of something very quickly.
Very cool. To date, what would you say is your biggest high or your greatest win?
My greatest high was definitely having my son. That was unbelievable. Although he did shit on me the minute he was born. It just sat all over my stomach. I was like, yay, this is not the... But actually, I didn't care, man. It was so like a human being had just come out of me. Do you know what I mean? It was, like, you know, it was 48 hours of labour and whatnot. I know it sounds a real cliche to say, oh, you know, but it was unbelievable. Like that moment. It's not to do with, you know, painting, but that moment was phenomenal. And also, probably when I look back, that moment where I was given the call to paint, because that was such a bizarre experience. Like,
I'm sure
that was like, I don't know what that was, but it was surreal, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's those two elements I would probably say.
If you could go back, would you change anything about how you did things?
I mean, you can look on that. I don't mean to be difficult, Brad, but you could look on many levels. If you go back and change anything, you're changing the future. So, you know, but see, on that level, I'd probably leave it as it is. If I could go back and change anything, I may have started my art career a lot earlier.
Yeah.
You know, had the realization a little bit earlier that I was on the wrong path, because on some level I knew it. When something is that difficult to achieve, then really that's life telling you you're fighting the tide here. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're swimming upstream.
Basically, yeah, and you don't want to listen because you have pictures of what success is, and you know, and you're trying to achieve something to feel better about something. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Which artists do you look up to and admire?
There's several artists that I like, but from a historical point of view, I love Jackson Pollock because he was so revolutionary in his approach, and also he was somewhat, you know, put down. And you know, there's that very well-known story of a famous art dealer coming to a studio and saying, "Well, he's just spraying some paint at canvas." And so as the guy, he went to leave the art dealer, he went to put his hand on the doorknob, and Jackson Pollock lit the paint, and it went directly down the line of the doorknob, and was like, "I know exactly what I'm doing, where the paint's gonna land." You know, it's like that. You know, that was it. And Mark Rothko, because I mean, there's like so much humanness in his work. When you sit in front of those mass colours that he's layered and layered up, I've gone and I've seen them at the Tate. It's just like, and you know, he struggled deeply as well, as most artists. There's a neurotic element to most artists, a struggle that they're. And you can feel it, and you can feel everything that he brought to it when you're in the presence of it. And you know, on the surface, just you look at his work online, and it doesn't tell you anything. You sit in the presence of it; it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a completely different feeling.
You know, right, exactly. So those two are my probably key examples. Yeah.
How would you like to be remembered?
Well, it's how I'd like to be remembered and how I will be. By certain people, a pain in the ass as remember those. But I guess I'd like to be remembered for someone that I know it's going to sound really cliche, but you know, I want to have made a difference. I want my work to make a difference in people's lives. I want them to put it on the wall, and something about it remind them of the part of themselves that maybe they're not listening to, the part of themselves that stays ever quiet, ever patient, waiting for that moment where they might be given some room to breathe, you know, outside of all the worry and the concern, and I've got to get the kids to school and there's shopping to do, and does that person like me, and all the kind of strategical way of living that we have. There is a different way to engage with the world, and I'm hope that when a person is and this tends to be the feedback, that when they're in the presence of my work, there's a shift that takes place. And like I get told a lot that my work on Instagram, because people love my work on Instagram, but then they which is my main point of interaction. Yeah. You know, my publishers deal with the sales, but then my main point of interaction with people is Instagram. And basically what the feedback is that the work doesn't look as good on Instagram as it does in real life. And that's really, and that's because when you're in the presence of it, you get the other communications that are going on, you know, and so I want to know that I made a difference for people. You know, people have stood and cried in front of my work, you know, because it's moved them so deeply that if I can, you know, move someone in that way, because we all kind of create cages for us of our own making without realizing. If I can help someone break their cage a little bit, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if the work you're creating elicits emotion from someone, then you know you've done your job, and because that's the point of it, is to elicit emotion and make people think and get lost in your work.
Right. Exactly. That's so if I can be known for having achieved that, then I've done my job, basically.
Awesome.
You know, and that's it, I guess. But I still would be known for being, especially for my parents, a pain in the ass for sure. My brother probably too. And many other people. I'm not afraid to have an argument, put it that way. So yeah.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
One word, I would say fire.
Fire?
Fire, yeah, fire.
Yeah, okay.
Just one word. If you're just going to give me one word, I'm going to say fire.
All right. If you could be any animal in the world, what animal would you be and why?
If I could be any animal in the world, I would be maybe like any kind of bird, really. Like any kind of, like maybe an eagle or something. The idea of being able to fly. And as an eagle, you're pretty high up the food chain as well, so you're not going to have to worry so much about, you know, being killed, and you can fly away. So an eagle, for that freedom, that massive freedom of just flying around, that would be gorgeous. Okay.
What's the first thing you notice about a person?
Their energy, the way they are, the way they engage. That's the, you know, the look in their eye, that you know, that instant feeling you get off someone.
Yeah.
You know, that can be more than how they look or what they're dressed like or anything like that.
If you had 24 hours left on Earth, what would you do?
Probably shit myself, to be honest. Like,
okay, that'll take you about 10 minutes. Then what?
Yeah, that's it. If I had 24 hours left on Earth, I'd want to spend it with my family. I'd want to be with my son, and I'd want to let everyone know that I cared about them. You know, there's only so if you want to go and do something crazy, you've got to get to the destination. You've got to do, you know, running out of time. You've got 24 hours. So, you know, ideally, I would know the 24 hours was coming up, so I could be in a nice location on some island somewhere with a nice couple of drinks, maybe, and my, you know, so I could plan for this 24 hours ahead of me, and I'd have family and friends. I know it sounds really obvious, but yeah, that's what I'd be particularly with my son and my partner.
Okay.
For sure.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I think I'm neither. I think I'm just an exhausted pigeon. There's a saying called, you know, you're an early bird. I'm an exhausted pigeon. I think I like a lot of sleep, so I like to sleep in, and I like to go to bed early. So it's really
so you're
I think having a child.
Neither of those apply to you. Okay.
You know, like if we can get in bed by 9 o'clock, me and John, we're high fiving. You know, it's like yay. You know, my son gets up pretty early, so and he's very chatty. I wonder where he gets that from. Yeah. So there's, you know, it's yeah. Anyway,
if you were guaranteed the correct answer to one question in life, what question would you ask?
The correct answer to one thing is, like, if I could know 100%.
Yeah, if you were guaranteed the correct answer to one question you have, what question would you ask?
I would ask, and I think I know the answer. I would ask, is it absolutely true that if you are able to completely remove any kind of negative thoughts or feelings, that you can generate any kind of possibility for your life? Like, I believe that, but there's like, I don't have the answer. Like, that's a fact.
Right.
That would be the question.
What do you like to do when you're not painting?
What do I like to do when I'm not painting? I like, again, it sounds really cliche, but I like being with family and friends. I like engaging in conversation.
Yeah.
Like I like being part of things. I've volunteered with this organization, and I like just being around people, basically, and being part of community in whatever way I can. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What makes you smile?
What makes me smile? Sometimes things you shouldn't be smiling at makes me smile. Like, the things that shouldn't. But what makes me smile? I moved quite easily. Like, if something is really genuine and real in somebody's communication, or when they're talking to me, or if I watch something on TV and it feels really like heartfelt, then it makes, I'm prone to crying, but it's through happiness. It's through like, oh, I get that. I get where you're coming from, and I feel moved by that. So right. I know you're asking about smiling, but like, and I do, it's, having a joke with a friend, being in good company makes me smile. But I guess it's just being with people and having connection makes me smile. Human
connection. Who are 3 people that have been most influential in your life?
From a family perspective, I suppose, for positive and negatives, because it's always the way, you cannot win as a parent. I would say probably my parents. Your parents are going to make you who you are, for the good and the bad of it. So definitely my parents. But then on top of that, I would say probably kind of the exploring around human consciousness and the people that I've come into contact with that have helped me learn and understand the nature of the mind. I would say they've had a massive impact on me and how I perceive my world, and then how I am in the world as a person.
Okay. How do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
Success, I think, is the ability to be at peace no matter what is happening. But then there's also the kind of success of like success. So success is just, I think, doing what you love and having it be received by your environment in a way that allows that to become a bigger part of your life. Like as a painter, I can only consistently do it because people buy my work.
Right.
So you need success, whilst ultimately it's about being at peace with the world around you. It's a catch-22. You kind of need to be in a peaceful place to generate sales and generate people buying your work, because if you are just struggling mentally all the time, it's going to come through in your work. So I think it's really, success is about creating that balance, but then also seeing the results of that and having people want my work in their home. So for the listeners,
right,
it's I would say the same. Whatever it is that calls you, like getting on that path is success. Like when I started out at the beginning, I wasn't making sales, but there was a sense of success to it because I was at peace.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If you could sit down with any one person in the world, alive or dead, and have a 1-hour conversation, who would it be and why?
It would be, oh my God, well, it's 2 of them I'd like to choose, really, but it'd be between Bruce Springsteen and Bill Hicks. So I'd have to go with Bill Hicks, probably, the 2 of them, because there's so little known comparatively because he died so young, between the 2 of them. And Bruce Springsteen speaks my spirit and my soul, but, in every word that he says, so the job's done there, really. As nice it would be to meet him.
Yeah.
But Bill Hicks, man, was a legend and died before his time. And if I could sit down and talk with Bill Hicks, I would be well up for that.
All right. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
It means having charge of your life and not being constricted by your anxieties and your worries.
It means not being constricted by
your worries and your concerns and your fears. Yeah.
And lastly, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
I would just say that it's going to work out, because I think I was so worried that I wouldn't achieve and become anything. That was why I was driven down the wrong path because I was too busy trying to work out how to be someone in the world. And it was fitting into pictures, and actually just to trust your feelings, no matter if they go against what you think will get you where you want to go, and know that it will work out. And even then, I'm on the journey. I'm still, I'm not 80, 90 years old. I'm on the journey still.
Yeah.
So it's in telling myself that back then, I'm still telling myself that now. It can't not work out, even if it looks like it hasn't. Man, that's your life. It's worked out.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you, Carly, so much for spending this time with me and sharing a bit about your journey, sharing a bit about your career and how you got into painting, your story. It's incredibly inspiring. And again, your work is just absolutely stunning. I love it. I'm a huge fan. You've converted me. It's just incredible.
Brad, honestly, I'm genuinely really honored. I really appreciate it. And for me, I kind of feel like, whether people get my work or like my work, it doesn't really matter. Like fundamentally, like I want people to feel a sense of possibility in their lives. And so if anything, this conversation may have someone go, oh, this is interesting. This resonates with me. Maybe I need to look into what she's talking about a little more. And for me, if I can just make that difference with one person, then, it's what it's all about for me. And I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to kind of have the mic. So thank you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure chatting with you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here and sharing. That's the whole point of this. I mean, if we as a collective, meaning myself and my guests that I have on, can reach one woman and help her through something that she's going through or give her guidance, then that's it. That's my job done. That's our job done as a community. So I appreciate you being here. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh. I am the host of your Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest has been Carly Ashdown. She is a professional artist / painter based in London, England. Thanks so much again, Carly. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show as a guest. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Brad. And you. Thank you, Brad. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.